All right, welcome to the third phase in this app development journey. Last time we went over how to use Xcode, design an app interface, basic button clicks, and launching a new screen from that button. This time we're going to deal with saving data, how to save data on an iPhone. We're going to discuss the best practices, how to do it easily, and we're also going to discuss extensions, pods, and of course homework. But before we dive deeper into these, last time we forgot to preload 8 buttons. So let's do this now. These 8 buttons are for the new screens we are going to be creating down the line. So eventually we are going to have a different screen for all these different phases. Like this phase we are dealing with today is on saving data. So we're going to have a different screen for that. When we're dealing with saving images, we're going to have a different screen for that. Creating a fully functional app, a food order app, we're going to have a different screen for that as well. So let's dive into creating 8 buttons right now. So we already have our screen 2 button from last phase. It was here, so just drag it up here. And then I'm gonna click the plus button and then drag a button into the screen. Do the same again. Let's make this one bigger. Basically the same stuff we did last time, but just 8 times. Oops, I think I need to make this bigger. All right. Uh, Almost there. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven. We need one more. Okay, so this will be screen 3. Then I'm gonna change the background color. Attributes inspector, background. And then I'm gonna change the text to black, text color. I'm gonna make it bold. Bold. And then I'm gonna increase the font size. Awesome. I'm gonna do the same thing for this button. This time I'm gonna do it much faster because you already get the gist. All right. Change the text of the button. Screen. Actually, I'm gonna leave the text blank for now just to keep things simple. And then this one, same thing. Get rid of the text. Change the background color. Get rid of the text, background color. All right. I think I can do better. Yeah. Okay. All right, expand this. Change the background color. Then for this one, change it again. Okay, get rid of the text. The reason I want us to get rid of the text is because so we can just focus on these buttons for now. And in that case, that is screen 2. So let's get rid of this one too. Okay, so this one, if you remember, is already working. This one launches the screen 2. So I'm going to title this screen 2 saving data. Saving data. All right. A little more space. Great. So now we have this done. Let's run a very quick test and see. Okay, great. The screen launches. These ones don't do anything for now. Perfect. All right, let's go back. Why do I want this full screen? Okay. Okay, so now this is done. So we've preloaded the 8 buttons that we need for the future sessions. Great. So today we are doing saving data. In iPhone or in any kind of software, you always would want to save some data. On a website, you would save cookies. On an iPhone, you would save data. You can save objects. You can save numbers, strings, images, anything. So that's what we're going to deal with today: how to save this data locally on your phone. And I'm going to show you the best ways of doing this, recommended by Apple, and then I'm going to show you an even better way of doing them much faster. And one of those better ways of doing them much faster is by using a library I created called TinyDB. But before we dive into this library on how to use it, I'm going to show you how Apple designed saving data to work. So Apple intends that saving data would work with an object called user defaults. It works perfectly, but to me, it's not the most simple way of doing this. So I created this library on GitHub called TinyDB. So TinyDB takes the concept of saving data and makes it even more simple, so that with one class you can save images, objects, and even ints and different kinds of generic variables. So that's what the TinyDB is for. So if we were to do things the way Apple intends, which is what TinyDB does internally, we use NSD user defaults, and then we basically let me scroll down to put, you say nsd.setValue, and then you pass in the key you want to save that value with, and then pass in the value. So if you want to say nsd.save an integer, you just pass in the value for the integer and then the key, which is what you're going to use to retrieve that integer after. So like nsd.save integer, nsd.get integer would be nsd.integer for key. If you want to get a float, nsd.float, nsd.double. But I made this library so easy that you don't have to do all these specific calls. You can just say get int, get float, get double, get boolean. And when you want to put, you can just say the same thing: put int, put float. So that's why I designed TinyDB. It works great for saving images as well. You can say tinydb.putimage. You just pass in the folder and the file name, of course, with the image UI image object. and then the library does it for you. So we're going to be using this today, and that's one of the major things we're going to be using. We're going to be using it to create an app that saves the sum of basically the sum of how many times you click the plus button, and it adds everything up. And then we're going to be also saving text. So we're going to design an app whereby you type in a text in the text field, and then when you click save idea, it saves it to the phone storage. So this would train us on how to use how to work with basic variables, as well as how to save the data after. And then this one will teach us how to save regular text. By the way, I designed this on Google Drawings app, which is available on drawings.google.com. All right, so let's proceed. So let's go ahead and design this. We're going to design this now on our screen 2. I need to move this around. So let me open up screen 2. Screen 2 will be storyboard 2. So in case you forgot, your storyboards should be under the storyboard folder. Last time we created storyboard 2.storyboard. That's where we're going to be doing this designing on. I'm going to get rid of this. All right, let me make it a little more bigger. Great. So on the design page, we have up here we have a text view, so aka label. So let's import a label. This is a label. I'm going to drag that in. A label displays, I think I need to change the background just to improve the contrast. Let's see. Let me change the background. I'm gonna leave it at white for now. Okay, so a label represents basically something you can display text on. Okay. So right now the default should be 0 because it's going to be displaying the sum of the numbers we are counting. I'm going to center the text and make it bigger. I'm going to try to match it with this one. So I'm gonna make it bold. Great, done. Much bigger, much bigger. Great. All right. I'm gonna get rid of. I'm gonna give it a background. Something unique as a background. So background maybe. How about that? Nope. Let's see. Yeah, let's leave it at this for now. Then we need 2 buttons, so I'm going to get rid of this one. An easy way to get rid of a view is by clicking it and then pressing backspace. Then it's gone. So next we need 2 buttons, a plus button and a minus button. So I'm going to click add button. Then I'm going to click plus on the keyboard. I'm going to make this bigger. So I'm going to, again, on the font section, I'm going to click the plus to increase the text size. By the way, you can also change the font type to something very different. Let me do that for the sum. So on the sum, I'm going to change the font to something different, system italic. Yeah. All right, so back to this one. I'm going to change the background to, let's make it match this one, blue. Background, blue, 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 blue. Then I'm going to change the text color to black. Okay. Then I'm going to add another button for the minus button. Minus, and then I'm going to go through the same protocol by increasing the font size. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Great. And then I will change the text color black, and then I'm going to change the background color to, by the way, the background is always at the bottom here. I'm going to change the background to bluish blue. Great. Oh, by the way, you can also click on this and then click the up down arrow buttons on your keyboard to move them around for much more precise positioning. All right, so we have this done. Now the next thing is to add this text field below and then a button below it. So a text field is something you can type text into with the keyboard, and in iPhone development they are called text fields. So this is a text field here. As you can see, displays a rounded rectangle that can contain editable text. All right, so let's do that. Let's place one here. Let's change the background color. Background. So this time I'm gonna put something different. Something. Let's see. Yeah, I think this pink is okay. No, that's too. Yeah, I know I have a thing with colors. I'm not so confident with the colors I choose. Let's see. All right, I'm gonna leave it at pink. So I'm gonna move this all the way. All right, so now we have the text field set. I'm going to put a hint and call it idea. I'm going to change the font size, and then I'm going to add a save button. I'm gonna call it save idea. I'm gonna increase this. Okay, so I'm going to change the text color black, and then the background green. I'm gonna make the background pink as well, just to keep things uniform. Let's see, background pink. And then I'm gonna make this bold. Bold. Okay. Then I'm going to increase the font size. Lastly, okay. Yeah, this is way too big. Okay. All right. So now we have. Let's make sure it matches. Yeah. So now we have a text, text label that's going to display the sum of our calculations. We have a text field that is going to where we're going to type ideas into, and then click this button to save it. So this one here is the concept here is to use variables to calculate sums, and the concept here is to practice with typing text and saving the text in that text field. So let's proceed. Let's see. Okay, so now we're going to connect these views to the screen. And to do that, we are going to need our assistant, which is our view controller. So I'm going to click this and click assistants, and then right next to it, it shows me my view controller. I'm going to get rid of this text here. So now this brings us to a very important point. Actually, I'm going to close this for a second. So there are two kinds of views. Views that their main functions are clicking, and views that their main functions are not directly clicking. So for example, a button, you click the button, that's the main function. A text view like a label, the main function is to display something. So most of the time when we add a button to our view controller, we would usually add it to the bottom, because that's where we add actions. That's where we add views that have actions. So watch this. Hold down the control key and bring our save idea button into our view controller. Now, be mindful of the position and where I'm bringing this, and I'm bringing it in below the view did load function. Okay, there is the space above the view did load function. This is the view did load function. There is a space above it, and there is a space below it. Actions like touch up inside, you put them below. Hold down the control key and drag the button below the view did load function. And then let's call this save idea button clicked. And notice the first S is always lowercase, okay? Then the B for button is uppercase, and the C for clicked is uppercase. Touch up inside, great, and then I click connect. Now we're going to connect these other two buttons, which is the add and subtract, okay? So the same protocol, hold down the control key, drag the plus button into the view controller, but again, keep in mind, since this is an action like a touch up inside action, we're going to put this below the view did load function. I'm going to call this plus button clicked. I'm gonna click connect, and then I'm going to do the same for the minus button clicked. Minus button clicked. I'm gonna click connect, Great. What's going on here? So this is one of the big benefits of these switches. You can make space and whenever you need it. So now we have our plus button added, our minus button added, our save button added. They're all here. If you have these circles filled, it means they are added correctly. Otherwise, you might have a problem in the connections. And to troubleshoot those connections, the way to do that is by clicking here if it's not already expanded. Click on view controller, connections, and then you're gonna see all the connections you have already connected. See that? So if you're having any issues, just remove any of the connections and then try again. All right. So I'm gonna hide this back. Okay. So now we still have to connect this label and this text field to our view controller. So now, because we don't directly perform actions on this on this kind of view, rather we just mainly change the content. What we're going to do is we're going to drag it above the view did load as a regular variable. So hold down the control key. Oops, what is this? Not now. Hold down the control key and drag above the view did load. So as you can see, the type is a UI label and it's a regular outlet. So we're going to name this some label. Press enter, yeah. And then the next one is the text field. This is a text field and this is a label. The difference is that for this one, you type into it. This one displays text. Imagine you are reading a digital book. You're probably reading it through something like a label or a text field. This one, a label or a text field. So I'm going to bring in the text field this time, where we type in our ideas, our coolest ideas. So I'm going to call this idea text field. Idea text field. Okay, so this one is added. Great. All right, so now we have our view did load, our plus button clicked, minus button clicked, save idea button clicked. Awesome. Everything is connected now, so that's good. Now the next thing we'll do is import. Actually, let's do the adding of numbers first and test that out. So the first thing we're going to do is to create a variable for this text, for this label. So to do that, we say var sum. Then we're going to say this is of type int, and let's initialize this to 0. Okay, and then when the plus button is clicked, now we are coding. When the plus button is clicked, we are going to add 1 to 0, right? So we're going to say sum equal to sum plus 1. It's that simple. Sum, which is this sum here, is equal to sum plus 1. And then when the minus button is clicked, we're going to say sum is equal to sum minus 1. Very simple, right? Okay, so now we've just added the code to update the sum variable, but we still need to show this, right? So for example, when I run this code, this is going to run, but it's not going to show. Let me actually show you. Let's see, run. Okay, so screen 2, saving data. I click that, plus, minus, see that? So right now the sum is actually updating, but it's not showing. So how do we make this show? How do we make this show? Let me show you. Where is my xcode? All right, so to make this show, we have to use the sum label variable that we added. Remember, this was this when we connected this. We have to impute this into the sum label, and then it's going to show. To do that, we're going to go to the next line, and then we'll say sum label. The suggestion came up, great. Sum label dot text equal to. So how do you think we are going to assign text to this? Now we can't say just sum, because we can't do this because sum is not a string. A label accepts only a string. Now in programming, there are different primitive types. One of them is called string. As you can see, a string is a Unicode string value that is a collection of characters. It's basically, a string is a text. A string is text, like plain text. You know, like this is a string. This is a string. Okay? Any text is a string. That's what string is. This one, int, is basically numbers. Numbers without decimal values. That's what int is. So we can't pass in an int into here because it's not a string. It's not a text. It's a number. There's a difference. So we need to somehow convert int, in this case sum, into a string. So let's do that. So to do that, there is this. To do that, there is this simple initializer of string that accepts ints. So string, then I pass in a number inside, in this case integer sum, and then this would cast the sum into a string. All right, so when I run the app again, because I'm now saying sum label.text is equal to this sum, it's now actually going to show. So let's try that. I'm going to copy this as well and paste it here for the minus button. We have to do it for each time. We have to do it for each button. So now everything looks good. Sum is equal to sum plus 1. Sum.label.text equal to string initialized with a value which is a number, in this case an integer. Minus, okay, so let's try this. Let's run it again. Okay, open screen 2, plus, yay, minus, awesome, plus, 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 minus, 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 plus, 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 minus, minus, awesome. This is looking very good. This is looking very, very good. All right. Now, let's proceed to the next step, which is saving of ideas. I hope you're excited about this, because I am. I am very excited. All right, so saving ideas. So I have shown you how Apple does this internally, or how they intend we do this on a foundational level using the class called user defaults. I've showed you this. So now I've also showed you the TinyDB. We're not going to be directly using user defaults, but we're going to be using TinyDB that does use it internally. So to do this, let's start off by importing TinyDB. Okay, TinyDB is stored on GitHub. GitHub is a code sharing website. So I'm going to click the link. I'm going to click the link, open up TinyDB. So this is the project repository. So whenever you're on GitHub, the first thing you should probably do is read the README file, which is basically the description of the project. On the description, it says TinyDB relies on files, which is a different project, and it relies on app folder, and it says files is already included. So we only need to import this separately. So let's first of all import this one that doesn't come with TinyDB. All right, so let's click on the link for app folder. All right, so let's go scroll down to the import instructions for app folder. Import instructions. All right, so this time we're going to be using the Swift package manager instruction. All right, so I'm going to copy this, Command T. Again, I'm under the Swift package manager import instructions. I'm gonna go back to Xcode. I'll click File, Swift Packages, Add Package Dependency. Okay, so again, move your cursor all the way to the top. File, Swift Packages, Add Package Dependency. And then we're going to paste in the URL we copied from GitHub, which is this one here. So just paste it in and then click Next. Click Next. And finish. Okay, so now app folder is imported, and we're just gonna wait for this. Okay, now it's done. So now next we're going to go back to TinyDB. So app folder is now imported. Files, we just have to, it's already here. So the next thing is to download TinyDB. We're gonna click the green button, download code, download zip. So once it's downloaded, you should unzip it and then have the files open. I already have mine open here. So all we need here is files.swift and tinydb.swift. So I'm going to hold the command key and select both of them, and then bring it into my xcode. So I'm going to minimize xcode for a second. Hold on. Yeah, so I have xcode minimized, so I can import this. So I have my files.swift and tinydb.swift. Again, this is what I imported from GitHub and then unzipped. So I select them and then I drag them into the utils folder in my project. Okay, the utils folder, and then I let go. I want copy items if needed checked, and then just leave the rest as is and click finish. Okay, so now TinyDB and files is imported. I'm going to open TinyDB just to make sure there are no errors. Great, all looking good, no errors, so everything looks good. Everything looks good. All right, so now TinyDB is currently imported. Let's go back to Google Docs. So we're going to use it to save some sums and texts. All right, so xcode. I'm gonna make this full screen. Okay. All right, so now let's use this. So we're going to go back to storyboard. No, not storyboard. View controller 2. All right, so now we're going to create a new variable, and we're going to call this TinyDB. So var TinyDB oops, we need to import TinyDB first. Import tiny. It seems like it's not yet recognized, so I'm gonna run a build. Command B. Let's see. Command B. Trying to get it to detect our TinyDB. Okay, let's try again. Import tiny. I actually shouldn't be needing to import this. Tiny var tiny. Tiny. Oh, var tiny. I was trying to name this before. Okay, var TinyDB. TinyDB. And this is of type tiny. Yeah, there you go. Oh my god, can you believe this? TinyDB equal to, and I'm gonna put an exclamation mark because I don't want to initialize it yet. So there was no issue actually. I was putting this in this position instead. So just say var TinyDB, then a colon, and then TinyDB, just like it's spelled out here. If all goes well, this should be green, and then put an exclamation mark after. An exclamation mark means you do not want to initialize a variable yet, and you are willing to risk it. In this case, this is intentional because I want to initialize TinyDB inside the viewDid load. So in the viewDid load, I'm going to say, I'm going to get rid of this. In the viewDid load, I'm going to say TinyDB equal to TinyDB. That's how you initialize TinyDB. All right. So now TinyDB is actually ready to use. So the first thing we want to do is I want us to save the sum every time that we upload a text. I want us to save the sum every time that we update the sum. So to do that, we're going to say TinyDB dot put int, and then we pass in the key. In this, oh, by the way, when I typed put int I pressed enter because it was already highlighted. I press enter and then it pre-populates these parameters. So key, I want the key. Remember, the key is the key you want to use to access this variable in the future. So it's going to be the only way you can access this variable after saving it. You're gonna need that key. You're gonna need to remember the key. So the key in this case is going to be I'm gonna call it my sum. My sum. I'm gonna make it all lowercase just to keep things simple. My sum. All right. And the value, as you already guessed, would be the sum. I'm going to pass the sum variable into it. So TinyDB.putInt, the key is my sum, and then the value is sum. So this saves our sum as it is currently into the memory. For this to happen in the future, you have to call this code again. So that's why we put it in this button whereby we click. That's why we put it in the button that we are always clicking every time the function is called. All right, so we should also do this in the subtract button. So we're going to save it here as well. TinyDB.putInt my sum, so that after every subtraction we also save the new sum to the memory. All right. So I think we should test this out, right? But before we test this out, we need to load this from memory as well. So to do that, we're just going to I so we're going to do this inside the viewDidLoad function. The reason is because the viewDidLoad function is called every time every time a new screen opens up. So that means, where is our screen? So every time in an iPhone or an iPad, and every time you click to launch a new screen and the screen launches, the viewDidLoad function is triggered by the system. So right now, the viewDidLoad function was called internally. So that means every code inside that viewDidLoad function will be called. So it's always good to do all your initial stuff in there, like initialization of variables, loading data and stuff. So for now, we're going to initialize the variable that's stored, that holds the sum of our label. So remember when we click the plus button, we had saved the sum. When we click the minus button, we also needed to save the new sum. And then we may need to save that sum to memory as well. Now we want to load that sum from memory when the screen is launched. So that's what we're going to implement now, the loading of the sum from memory, so that when the screen is launched in viewDidLoad, it will show the sum here. Okay, so let's dive into that. All right. So we've initialized TinyDB. So the next thing we should do is say sum equal to TinyDB dot get int. Remember we did a put int, so this time it should be get int. And then we pass in the same key, which is my sum. I'm gonna copy it to avoid errors, and then paste it in here, my sum. And then guess what? We're going to display it. So I'm going to say sum label.text equal to string sum. So I'm going to copy the same code, copy, and paste it down here. So that means when the view loads, when the new screen launches, we want it to load the old sum from memory, show it, load it into our variable, our sum variable, which is this one. So that means whenever the screen launches, the new data would be from the old memory. And then we display that new sum. So let's try it out. Run. All right, okay, I'm gonna click run. So plus, 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 minus, 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 plus, 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 plus. So the sum currently is 5. I'm going to close down the screen and launch it again and see if it comes up with 5. Okay, so this is me testing TinyDB. Oh wow, great. We're gonna add more numbers, close it down. 9, great. Let me test this with a crazy number, 22. Close it down, launch it again, 22. Perfect, everything is working. And when I subtract, I'm subtracting from the sum. Close it down, launch it again. Awesome. So it's working just as planned. All right. So this just covered how to update a variable. This is a regular integer variable. We just updated the variable, we added to it, we subtracted from it, from different buttons, And one thing that helped us do this is because we made the variable a global variable. That gave us the power to control it from anywhere in this class, because the sum variable is a global. If this sum variable was, let's say, hidden inside here, we wouldn't be able to access it because it's a local variable here. But when it's in the direct hierarchy of the root class, in this case view controller, then we can access it from everywhere in the root controller. But when it's inside, let's say the brackets of this one, the parentheses of this one, like here, you would only be able to access it inside here. Here it's a local variable of view did load, so you can only access it in here. So that's why we made it a global variable up here, so that we can access it from everywhere in this class, like from the plus button clicked, minus button clicked, and the view did load function. We can access it from everywhere in the parentheses of this class. All right, so now that we have this one working, the next thing we should do is work on this one, saving ideas. All right, so let me move this up a little bit. Let's see. Okay, great. All right, let me make sure this is working. Yeah, it's working. All right, so now let's work on saving our ideas. So the concept here is to think of a cool idea, maybe like an app idea. You type it into the text field and then you click save. And then the next time we come back to the app, it loads it from memory, just like the sum up here, and shows the idea on the same text field. And then we can make changes to it anytime. So let's dive into that. And as you might have guessed, we're also going to be using TinyDB for saving texts. So the last time we saved numbers, now we're going to save texts. All right, so let's dive into that. Our view controller 2. So we already have our idea text field, UI text field, which is of type UI text field. We already have that connected to our view controller. And then we have our save idea button here. So what we are going to do now is very simple. Grab the text from our text field and save it whenever the save button is clicked. So we're currently under the save button touch up inside function. This is the enclosure. As a quick reminder, this is it. We're currently inside the function of this for when it's clicked. So so to grab the text from the UI text field, we're going to need to grab that text. So now let's imagine that you're working on the code and then you forgot how to actually grab a text from a UI text field. What do you do? This is another important aspect of programming that everybody should know. That is that Google is your best friend when you forget some common things, or even when you don't know how to do stuff. You can't learn everything from, let's say, a course, but you can learn how to learn. So for example, let's say you forgot you want to grab the text from our idea text field. Okay, let's say you already have the variable, Command C, I copied that, I pasted it in here, and then you want to grab the text but you don't know how to. So what do? You know the name of the variable type, UI text field. Okay, so you go on Google, and search UI text, no, Swift, we need Swift, oh no, let's say how to get text from UI text field in Swift. How to get text from UI text field in Swift. So the best thing that is always suggested is to find a Stack Overflow link. They'll usually have the best answers sorted out already. So let's see. Now this is talking about something different, I think. Let me go back, click another one. Let's see. So it says just to call the .text, just like our label. So in this case, let's try that. So idea text field .text, that's what we need. So to save this text, we just have to pass this into TinyDB. So let's create a variable that is going to hold the text, var idea text. This will be of type string equal to UI idea text field dot text. Okay, and then we'll say TinyDB to save, TinyDB dot put what kind of variable are we looking for? Int object image double string. We're looking for a string, so TinyDB dot put string, and then we pass in a key. Let's think of a key quickly. A good key would be let's say best idea. Okay, then the value should be, of course, our idea text. So value idea text. Now we have an error here saying that we should unwrap this in case it turns into a nil. So a quick easy fix would be to put an exclamation mark. So now we have this. Quick note: Xcode is telling me I have a warning. The warning is usually that in Xcode we have two kinds. In Swift we have two kinds of variables. One allocated into a variable and one allocated into a let constant. The main difference is that vars you can make changes to them, lets you cannot. So when you use a var and you do not modify that variable down the line, Xcode shows you this warning. It's just a warning, you can ignore it. But to get rid of this warning, all you have to do is just change this to a let. But remember, this warning only shows up when you declare a variable with a var and you do not make changes to it down the line. Okay, so with that said, I lost my exclamation mark. With that said, let's go ahead and test this out and see. So I'm going to run the app. I'm going to type in my idea. My idea is dating app. Okay. I'm going to save the idea. Save. Great. Saved. Okay. I'm gonna close the screen. Launch it again. Now my idea didn't show up. The reason is because we did not load the old idea from memory in our view did load. So remember how we loaded the old idea from memory for the sum? We should do the same thing for the idea as well. So to do that, we say idea idea text field dot text equal to tinydb dot get text. Get string, and then we pass in the key. And remember, the key is what we created here, so we copy the same key. I don't recommend typing it out. We copy the same key and paste it in here. Okay, so now we have loaded the old idea into the text field in the view did load, which is the function that runs when the app launches initially. So let's run the app again and test. See, dating app came up. So I'm going to change the idea to farm statistics app. Okay, I'm going to save the idea. Remember, this is saving to the same key. I'm not changing the key each time I'm clicking save idea. All right, I'm gonna close the screen, launch the screen again. See, farm stats app. So this is working. So as an overview, what we just did is we grabbed the text from the text field. And saved it into memory, in this case with TinyDB. And this is where we grab the text when we said idea text field dot text, and then we saved it into memory by saying tinydb.putString. Remember, for the numbers we used putInt, which is a number, but for the text, which is the idea, we said putString because strings is for text. And remember, text strings are any kind of text. That's a string, any kind of text. Even numbers like 1 0 1 1 1 whatever, as long as they're in quotation marks, it's a string. But if it's not in quotation marks, it's a number. What if numbers are not in quotation marks? What if text are not in quotation marks? It's gonna cause errors because it's not a string. So that's because a string is initialized using quotation marks in most programming languages, which includes Swift. So where is our app? So today we've covered how to change the variable by subtracting and adding to it, saving that variable to memory, loading the variable from memory, in this case a number, and also how to save text to memory, and how to grab text from text fields. The next thing we're going to cover today, which will be fast, is extensions. So extensions in programming, in this case in Swift programming, it's a way of extending the functionalities of a class. So imagine we have let's say TinyDB, and you want to extend the features of TinyDB. You use extensions. I'll show you what an extension looks like. Or even on a storyboard, you want to extend the functionalities of let's say a button. You use extensions, and I'll show you how to do that. So This is what an extension looks like. Again, I clicked on this link. So this is a class full of extensions. This is a URL extension. This is an error extension. This is an encodable extension, dictionary extension. This is a UI view extension. This extension adds rounded corners for views. This one adds a border width option for views. This one adds a border color. So what we're going to do now is we're going to import this extension. So if you've clicked this link, this code snippet link on extensions, we're going to import this by simply copying. We're going to click raw. I'm going to press Command A to copy everything. I'm going to press Command C, and then I'm going to go back to Xcode. Okay, and then I'll right click on the utils folder and click new file, and in this case I'm going to click Swift. Remember last time we did a Cocoa Touch, because that was a view controller, but when you are creating just a raw Swift file that doesn't directly deal with touch, you do Swift. So double click that, and then this is where you name it extensions, and then click create. Okay, so now the extensions file is added. I'm gonna select everything here by pressing Command A, and then I'm going to press Command V to paste in the code we copied from here. All right, let's get rid of this for now. So I commented this out because we don't need it for now. So now the extensions is imported. So to show you a very quick example, remember we also imported this by pasting all that code, the one for corner radius. So I'm going to go to our storyboard, and you're going to see an option to change corner radius. So I'm going to click our attributes inspector, and now you should see an option to change the corner radius. So I'm going to click our button, and I'm going to change the corner radius of it. I'm gonna press up. I can actually change it also from here. So let's say 20. Enter. Now, as you can see, no changes seems to be made. Now, this is normal. The changes are only going to be seen when you run the app. Okay. Currently, I have the corner radius to 20, but it's not showing. So let me show you this by running the app. So I'm going to click run. See that? So right now we have a rounded corner on our button. This is a very good example of how extensions work. Okay. Now that corner is way too rounded. Okay. Now there is also the option for border color. It's part of the things we added in our extensions, and border width. So I'm going to change the border width to 3 or 4 actually, just to make it 5, just to make it visible for this demonstration. And then border color, I'm gonna make it black. All right, then I'll run the app. As you can see, it's not showing here. I'm going to run the app. You see that? So now we have our button with a border color and a rounded corner. Now that border is way too thick. Let's reduce this. Yeah, 2 should be good. I'm gonna run it again. Okay, looks good. All right, so we can actually do the same thing for this one. Yes, the buttons still work. It's just the visuals that changed. You can do this for any view, because where is our extensions? Because although think I need a story. You can do this for any view because the border width and border radius, they extend UI view, and UI view is the base class which all other views extend. They all extend a UI view, so you can actually run that code on all this. All right, let's see, I think that's about it for today. Let's see. Pods. Okay, we still need to touch on pods. So we just talked about extensions, how you can extend the functionality of an object or a view from adding extensions. You can find many useful extensions online. You can create your own extensions. They're actually easy to create. And also, sometimes when you Google solutions on Stack Overflow, their best solution may be an extension. So you can just add that to your extensions file, and then you're good to go. Also, sometimes we add the extensions directly to our view controller at the bottom. We're going to deal with that kind of extension when we get to using table views, which is a list view. Now, about pods. Pods is also a kind of extensions. Remember when we imported TinyDB? We did that by dragging and downloading the zip file from GitHub, and then dragging and dropping the file into Xcode. Now, pods prevent you from going through that process. They help you import libraries and solutions from places like GitHub easily. So pods are implemented by using the command line to import projects. I'm going to show you a very brief example of how to do this. Then after, you're going to follow this YouTube tutorial, which is great to download to install the pod on your computer so you can use it going forward. So in this video instructions, one of the first things they're going to tell you is to open up the command line, and the command line is found by clicking search. Just search terminal, and then click the first option. You're going to see the command line view. I'm gonna make this bigger. View bigger. So then once you have pod installed, which I don't expect you to have it now, you can simply cd into your app folder. In this case, you don't have to do this. I'm just showing you a very quick demonstration of how using pods work. Cd documents, I'm gonna press tab, cd iOS, cd seed, because our project name is seed. So from here I can now say pod install, and then it's going to install all the projects I have in my pod file, which we are going to get into when you watch this video. So so as a homework today, you're going to install pods, and it's easy. All you have to do is follow the very clear instructions on this video. Just follow the instructions, and follow the instructions based on the directory you have stored. You have saved the seed project we're working on. In this case, it's in the documents folder of your computer. Under iOS, you have the seed folder. So follow this instruction based on that. It's very straightforward. So by the next time we meet up in phase 4, we're going to install some new cool pods to improve our projects. And of course, keep learning Swift. Today we did some very basic Swift programming with adding numbers and saving stuff. Next time we're going to build upon that. All right. So with that said, I'll catch you on the next one.